Welcome to an episode of Heat Check. I am John Devine. With me, we have a special guest. Anthony is traveling to Memphis for Game 2 against the Grizzlies, but Barry Jackson was kind enough to join us to help us with all things Heat. We have had one game, and it's been a very, very, very busy day already. We're filming this on Thursday. Most of you woke up to the news that Terry Rozier was arrested. I'm going to let Barry speak on it. We will first let's start with what the heck happened.
Well, Terry Rozier was implicated today, JD, in an investigation that has gone on for more than a year. It was an investigation, as many of our listeners and viewers know, that focused on a particular game when he was a member of the Charlotte Hornets in March of 2023, in which Rozier removed himself from the game, citing a foot injury early in the game and then missed the rest of the game. And the NBA was made aware at that time that there was some curious betting activity with all of the people who were placing bets, betting the under, meaning that Rozier would not meet certain statistical thresholds that night. And for months and months, the FBI has tried to determine whether Rozier was at all involved in these bets. Did he let anyone know in the gambling community that he would be removing himself from the game and thus encouraging people to bet the under on his statistical thresholds like points, rebounds, assists, etc.? A bunch of people won a bunch of money that night. And today, the feds and the police chief of New York said that they have the evidence where they feel confident moving forward with this case to charge Rozier in this gambling scheme. And I guess the most damning allegation, again, all of these are allegations and everyone deserves the right to be presumed innocent until found guilty. But the most damning allegation that they have is evidence that Rozier informed another one of the defendants, a known gambler, that he would be removing himself from the game early and thus encouraging this person to bet on the unders for him. Rozier's attorney has denied the claims, so it's going to be adjudicated in court. Now, the NBA had to have a response today. It's interesting that they placed Rozier and Chauncey Billups, the Blazers coach who was implicated in another matter. The NBA placed both of them on immediate leave. The NBA has not yet voided Rozier's contract, so there's no immediate cap relief for the Heat at all. He's still under contract to the Heat, but he's been placed on immediate leave, which will leave the Heat with 13 players minus their rookie point guard and hero, who are both injured when they play in Memphis tomorrow. So this really, JD, is a culmination of a long investigation. And I know everyone's tried to always rationalize, well, could this illegal betting activity have happened without Rozier's knowledge? Was he just an innocent victim in all of this? It was difficult to reconcile that. However, again, he deserves the presumption of innocence until guilty. But today, the FBI says we have found evidence that he was involved in this. How stunning was this for you, this news today?
Well, first of all, just so we can add on to it, among other people who are implicated is former Heat guard Damon Jones, who's now a coach. Just so we know. Yes, it's just an aside, but since this is Heat Check and it's all things Heat, I figured why not put his name in there as well. It's surprising to me for the simple reason that it's all over the place. The NBA technically had cleared him while the FBI had not. And Kash Patel, who was up there at the press conference this morning at 10 o'clock. So the question is, no one could really get a good handle on it because different people and different groups were saying different things. It would be like, I don't know, if the writers were trying to put you on the Hall of Fame, but your own newspaper, your own media company was saying that you need to be let go. It's like, which one is it? So why is the NBA letting it go? Does the NBA know something the FBI doesn't, or is it vice versa? And why did the NBA let it go so soon? And how far spread is it? There are so many. This is just the beginning of more questions instead of the end, in my opinion.
Yes, and the point you just raised was great about how did the NBA not find anything. This actually was the opposite of the chain of events as far as timing from the Jonte Porter case, former Toronto Raptors guard who was expelled from the league for gambling. In that case, unlike the Rozier case, the NBA investigation found wrongdoing. Unlike the Rozier case, where the NBA found no wrongdoing by Rozier. So the timing of the Jonte Porter case was back in 2024, last April, NBA found gambling wrongdoing by Jonte Porter, who was on a two-way contract with the Raptors. They immediately voided his contract, suspended him for life. The charges from the feds did not come for 2 months later. But with the order with the Rozier case, the NBA did its own investigation last year and confirmed clearing him. But the feds obviously have information that the NBA did not and went ahead with charges. So the way this affects the Heat is, unlike with the Raptors and Jonte last year, the Heat does not have Rozier's contract removed from its books at this time. It might ultimately happen. At some point, the NBA might void his contract and remove his $26.6 million salary from the Heat's books and the Heat's salary cap, but that did not happen today. The NBA merely put Rozier on indefinite leave. His contract remains on the Heat's books. Miami will still have him on the roster, but obviously not with the team and not available. Now, if Rozier's contract is ultimately voided by the league, just like Jonte Porter's was with Toronto, then the Heat would still be above the salary cap, which is $154 million. The Heat would have about $157 million in salary cap commitments. They would be well under the luxury tax. They'd be about $28 million under the luxury tax. Right now, they're about $27 million. Or I'm sorry, they're about $2 million below. So this would give the Heat more flexibility to be able to add whatever player is out there. It's mostly backups who are out there right now: Precious Achiuwa, Alec Burks, Trey Lyles, Mo Bamba, players like that the Heat would be able to sign. The other vehicle, JD, that the Heat would have if money is removed from their books would be something called a trade exception. A lot of our viewers are familiar with this, but as part of a series of trades over the last year, the Jimmy Butler trade, the Duncan Robinson trade, the Heat has emerged with a $16 million trade exception. Now, that trade exception cannot be combined with any other exceptions, but it can be used to absorb a salary of a player or players who are earning as much as $16 million. So let's say there's a team out there who has a player earning $16 million or less who's disgruntled, or a team out there that's above the luxury tax line, gets off to a bad start and says, you know what, we don't want to pay tax this year. Let's try to pair salary. So perhaps the Heat then might be able to come in and get that player. But again, this is only a possibility if the NBA voids Rozier's contract. And it's very interesting they did not do that today. There was some thought that once charges were filed, they might ban Rozier for life and remove his contract from the Heat's books. The league did not do that today. Now, whether they allow the case to be adjudicated over the next several months or years before they remove his contract is going to be interesting. But remember, this is the last year of his contract. So if the NBA does nothing in the next few months, then it's not going to affect the Heat at all with their cap because it comes off their books anyway after this season. So it puts the Heat kind of in an odd situation where they don't know if they're going to have money or they're not. But at this point, I guess they have to assume they're not going to get extra money or cap relief just because the NBA has not yet voided his contract.
And for perspectives, $16 million in terms of players, if I'm not mistaken, that's Jovic's salary for this year, around in his extension on average.
Right. His is $62 million over 4 years. Average salary in the league is about $13 million this year. So you might be able to get a player who helps, but you're not going to be able to acquire an all-star because of Terry Rozier's cap relief, even if the relief does come before the season ends. So, right. It doesn't appear at this point as if it's going to have a significant impact on the Heat. And again, even if his contract is voided, all that means is the Heat could use mid-level exception. They still have that, about $13 million. You could trade a player into that as well. You could use that $16 million trade exception, or you can sign guys to minimums. But look who's out there. There's just not very much out there left in terms of free agents who are remaining. Trey Lyles was a name that I mentioned, just my opinion, not a report, as a center who might be able to help them. He signed in Real Madrid. However, he has an out clause. So those would be the types of players you'd be looking at should the Heat get the benefit of Rozier's contract being voided, but whether the contract's voided remains an open question at this point. Strange way, though, to begin the season, huh?
Absolutely. So for you OGs who go, look, the Heat has $16 million. You know, in this current economy where we talk inflation all the time, and no, we're not going into politics. Don't worry about it. But for those of you who worry about inflation, $16 million ain't what it used to be. Now, that being said, don't forget, we still had a game last night. We had a game. One of the things they always talk about, it seems like every year for the past 4 or 5 years, We're going to play with more pace. We're going to run more. We're going to get out. We're looking for easy baskets. Some of that with Jimmy Butler being gone, who had the penchant for drawing fouls, doing things in the half court, he's gone. They had the whole offseason to work on it. We know we weren't exactly thrilled with maybe the overall result of it, but what did you see in the game that gives reasons for optimism? Let's start.
Encouraged that they were able to play with pace, JD, because we always kind of roll our eyes in preseason when players, not only on the Heat, but some other teams say, oh, we're going to play faster this year. Well, that actually happened last night, and it happened because they practiced it. I mean, they've held more practices over the last 3 weeks than I can ever remember Spo holding over the last 3, 4, 5 years. It also happened because Norm Powell came as advertised. He's a terrific offensive player, 28 last night. It happened because Davion Mitchell was superb, 12 assists, 1 turnover. He was just terrific last night. It happened also because Jaquez played a very good game. I like that he's playing now to his strengths. He's not looking for threes. His footwork is back to the high-level form that we saw as a rookie. He's playing with an aggressive bent. Fontecchio gave him good minutes last night. So I think all of these were positives. The negative from last night, I'm curious what you thought of this, was the continued problems in terms of holding leads late in games, offensive breakdowns late in games, combination of missed shots and turnovers. And then the big strategy question that emerged from last night, and I wanted your view on this. Do you think Spo did the right thing by not inserting Khalil Ware with about 6 minutes left? He didn't insert him until the final seconds when there was a free throw being shot. Should he have stuck with a smaller group with Jaquez at 4 instead of putting in Ware or even Jovic, but Ware probably that would be the better option against a very tall Orlando front line, because obviously those Wendell Carter offensive rebounds killed them late in the game. Was that the right move, do you think?
Well, I do think that you hit on something that's very, very important, and that is in this case, your opponent. I think that Spo is going to mix and match. And I think he thought maybe he could either go smaller or go bigger. Orlando is it's not just that they're tall, they're big. I mean, you're looking at Wendell Carter Jr., he's not exactly on the light side. Paolo Banchero is not small. Wagner is not small. Even, you can even bring in guys like Isaac. You can bring in, even in their backcourt, Desmond Bane is a big boy. I think they were out-muscled. I think it's almost like a football equivalent where they were worn down and worn out. And even with all of the gains that Khalil has made physically, because he's 21 now, he's filling out. That's great. He may be 15, 20 pounds heavier than he was last year, but he's still on the lighter side in that group. He still is not physically who he's going to be if he continues on this pace. That he's still getting pushed around. Even Jaquez may be shorter, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily smaller. I give some of that credit to the opponent you're playing. Not everyone's going to have a big lineup like this. Cleveland has double bigs. There are some people who have double big lineups, but not everyone's going to have a double big lineup. And I think this is part of the growing pains Spo's going to have as he mixes and matches. That's the bad news. There's a good news and bad news with having a long roster. A long roster is, hey, I can play this guy. And he always says, if you're always ready, you don't have to get ready. So if you pull the number 10 guy on the bench and he plays, but you don't have that sense of assuredness, and he's got to figure out what he can go with. So it's the first game. I'll give him that pass. Like we said, this is, according to people, the best coach in the league. This is your U.S. national team coach. If anyone's going to be able to plug these pieces in, it's going to be him.
I'll tell you why I wasn't bothered as much as others by Ware not being inserted in the game last night with 5 or 6 minutes left. Their rebounding was good last night. It was surprisingly good against a taller team. They finished with a 1 rebound edge, 47-46. So it's not like they were being killed on the boards. Now, had they been killed on the boards all night, then I think it would be justified to blast Spo today for playing Ware only 14 minutes and for not playing him until the final seconds of the game. But because they were not being outclassed on the boards, you could make the case to play Jaquez instead, which they did, even though he's an undersized 4, obviously. So it didn't work out, but I don't think it was an egregious mistake. What I do think, though, has to be addressed long-term is with Ware's upside, you have to play him more than 14 minutes. And I found it very telling last night. We saw practically no Bam Ware minutes together until the final seconds of the game. Obviously, we saw them together starting last year from mid-January on. One of the first things I asked Spo at Media Day was, are you committed to Ware starting alongside Bam? And he didn't really answer, and we now know his answer. The answer was no, but he said they had some good moments together, but they had some moments that weren't good, citing the Cleveland series. So I think the Cleveland series, which obviously was a debacle, left Spo thinking maybe we don't necessarily play the two of them together in a starting lineup or even play the two of them together a lot. Maybe we go back to Jovic, who started the first 8 games last year before being removed from the starting lineup. So I think that contributed to why we saw Jovic-Bam combo last night. However, long-term, you have to play Ware more than 14 minutes. You have to have at least some minutes with Bam and Ware together, even if they're not starting together. As far as Jovic is concerned, JD, obviously he's got a very intriguing skill set. He can shoot. He can bring the ball up. He's a playmaker. He's got to get a little more under control. He had the 3 turnovers last night. That was an issue when he came back off the injury in the Cleveland series last year. So he was 2 for 6 from the field last night. He gives you a dimension offensively that you need with Hero out. So I had no issue with Jovic starting, but he's got to sort of play a little bit more under control. The hope is that as he continues to grow and get older and his game develops, that you'll see a little more consistency with his game. Had you liked the starting lineup with the decision to go with Jovic over Ware, or were you wondering why did he move away from Ware and Bam?
Well, a couple of things. Ware, and you can answer this better than I can. Ware had some injury issues going in that they were asking about. Now, coaches and people say, oh, he tweaked an ankle. How much did that play a factor? That's a question. Mm-hmm. The other thing with Jovic, which I do like, is his ability to see over the top and the fact that he's a willing passer.
Yes.
He sees angles. He gets to see and do things that they don't have. Remember, they don't have their 2 best facilitators right now, and I know Davion Mitchell had 12 assists, but the people who see the court best may be Bam and Jovic.
Agreed.
But that doesn't mean they handle the ball well enough to, break someone down off the dribble and get to the hole like that. So they're better. Some of their parts are better than their individual parts because no one is the complete package. That's fine. But they have to figure out where to put them. If that means, that Jovic is at the top of the circle and then he's looking for cutters and he's looking for something just like, Bam's great at handoffs and then rolling, whereas Jovic may be more of a pick and pop guy because he is likely a better shooter, even though the stats may not show it. It's one game. So,
right.
But the stats may not show it, but Jovic is probably at this moment in time a better outside shooter than Bam. So the pick and pop in that case, you have to follow someone out to the 3-point line. It's all in what you're forcing the defense to do from an offensive standpoint. You're more than likely to follow Jovic out to the line than you might be for Bam. It may be prove it or show me, because then you can clog the passing lanes. So if you're looking at matchups of what you can and can't do, and they're still learning. Their backcourt is a little bit different than last year because you have Norman Powell, who gives you a great skill set. He gives you someone you can go to right now, especially with Tyler Hero being out. You need a go-to person. You need someone where, heaven forbid, it's 8 seconds left on the 24-second clock. You can get the ball and say, go get me a decent shot. Or draw enough of attention where you can pass it around where someone else gets it. So, yeah, like I said, I'll give them a week or two. But even as you give a week or two, you're going to go into, and then all of a sudden you're going to start ramping up, hey, when's Tyler Hero coming back in? And they're going to have to adjust all over again.
Yeah. I'd like their closing lineup potentially of Hero, Powell, Mitchell, Bam, Wiggins. That gives them a lot of firepower. It gives them a couple really good on-the-ball defenders with Wiggins and Mitchell once Tyler comes back. So I see that as generally their closing lineup. The problem, though, with that lineup is lack of size. So if you're going up against a team with the size of Orlando, even if you had Hero out there instead of Jaquez late, you're still going to have the size issue. A couple other quick observations from last night. We saw Larson come in as the 10th man. He's got to get the foul issues under control. And I talked to him about this in the last month. He knows he fouls too much. 2 of them in 4 minutes. Part of that is a byproduct of playing so hard, but he's going to have to get that under control. And he's going to have to shoot threes well if he wants to be used as a 10th man more than the 4 minutes that he played last night. I think Hawk has solidified his spot as a top 7 player on this team last night. I think the fact that Spo trusted Fontecchio for 19 minutes shows that he's going to be a rotation player. I thought Drew Smith, considering he's come back remarkably quickly from the Achilles, I thought he played well. Only shot 1 for 4 from the field, did have 5 assists. Turnovers have been something of an issue for him in between his 2 major injuries. The last 2 years, had only 1 turnover last night. So this rotation, once Hero's in there, I think there's potential here to be a pretty good team. I know it's hard to say that when they haven't won a game since last April, swept by Cleveland, 0-6 in preseason, lost against Orlando. But I see a smidgen of light once Hero gets back. I think the offensive firepower will be better. If you project improvements from Jovic and from Ware this year, then I think they have the potential to be a team that wins in the 40s. How many remains to be seen. Are you more or less encouraged about them after last night, JD?
I still have a couple questions. Biggest one is, and maybe I'm just more old school, I understand that Zoe is the proponent of positionless basketball, and I get it. I still think you need someone to initiate offense. I still think you need someone who can get into the lane. I need someone who can drive and kick. I need someone who can see the court that way. And you have, like I said, you have a couple guys who can do things in the half court and see the court by virtue of the fact that they're taller and they can see over the top. But your best guy for breaking down is someone we haven't even mentioned, and that's Kasper Jakichonis. And he has growing pains. He's injured. He has to learn the league. We know he had trouble with his shots, with his shooting early on. So you don't know what you have. Now, that one preseason game where he played a little while and had like 12 assists and I think 10 or 12 assists and 7 of them with Khalil Ware, it may be nice to see that connection flourish and he can roll to the hole. But let's be honest, if you can't shoot and you have a pick and roll, the first thing they're going to do is lay off you until you can prove you can knock that down.
Absolutely. He's got to prove he's a better shooter than what we saw in Las Vegas Summer League. But one interesting thing, though, about putting him on your second unit, if Ware's coming off the bench as well, we saw the connection between the rookie and Ware in that one preseason game where he had 9 assists. So that's intriguing. And I guess one of the big Spo decisions will be once Jakichonis is healthy, whether to give him the minutes or whether to stick with Drew Smith. So I think that's going to be one of the more intriguing storylines in the next couple of weeks.
Because if you're looking at guards, okay, obviously you're dealing, you have Norm Powell, depending on what you want to call him. You have him. You have Tyler Hero at healthy. You have Davion Mitchell. Those 3, I think we can say without a doubt, they are usually going to take a bulk of the minutes. If you do that, after that, you can put Pelle Larsson, you can put Drew Smith, you can put the rookie in there, and then they're fighting to see who it is. And knowing how our coach is, that can rotate according to playing the hot hand. So so it's going to be like, that's going to take a while to figure out. Maybe Kasper can do his thing and maybe he elevates himself, but he gives them something they don't. Look, Drew Smith gives them something. Drew Smith gives you an on-ball defender who's going to hound the guy all up and down the court as long as that Achilles doesn't do anything crazy. You have that. That's great. Pelle Larsson gives you things. They give you you have 3 guys, and if you could take the best attributes from all 3 of them, you have one heck of a guy. If you take all their negatives, you have a guy who's in the G League. That's why they're flawed, but you do have room for growth for them because they're young. But will you be able to give them enough time to give them their growing pains, or do you have to send someone to Sioux Falls to hit it?
Right. And then, of course, the other big issue the next 2 weeks is just the difficulty of the schedule. Obviously, at Memphis, then you come home for the Knicks. Charlotte might be a reprieve, although the Hornets are much improved. Then at San Antonio, at Lakers, at Clippers, at Denver. you just have to hope that you emerge from this not at 1-7, right? I mean, you have to hope that you get 2 or 3 wins in there, so at least it'd be a manageable 3-5 start as opposed to a 1-7 start. So that would be my concern moving forward.
I told Anthony last week, is there going to be a point where the Dolphins and the Heat have the same record?
That's
because
a good question.
It could happen.
Yes.
And in the Heat's case, it's not all self-inflicted.
Yes.
But I think when we're talking about the Heat and you're looking at the East, and we understand the East, it's in flux because of injuries, because of just the way it's working out. It's when you have a team, and we talk about a team that runs 8, 9, 10, 12 deep, it is a little bit harder to gauge what you're going to get for that season.
Right.
You're not top heavy when you're saying, I'm not getting, 55 points from these 3 guys. I'm not getting a double-double every night from this place. You're hoping to see who emerges. And you know what? Khalil Ware, maybe he does average a double-double along with Bam Adebayo by the end of the season. Maybe Davion Mitchell is a point guard who is a top half point guard in the season. But when you're looking at it at the beginning of the season, the only person you can really trust are the guys who are there every day in practice, guys who are every day on the court, and they see the growth. We only see the growth of what happens in games. We don't see behind the scenes.
Right.
So early on, we have to trust it.
I think from a mental standpoint, they can't lose both the Knicks and Hornets home games. I mean, ideally you win both, but you can't be 0-4. Yeah, if you lose in Memphis on Friday, you can't be 0-4 and drop both home games. I just think from a mental standpoint for everyone, the players, the coaches, the fans, that would be awful because then you're talking about a sweep against Cleveland, an 0-6 preseason, an 0-4 start. You need to win at least one and probably both of those games. Anyway, it's been fun being with you, John.
Absolutely. So looking ahead, look, we'll get Barry back here. You may not have me with him and maybe Anthony, but we're happy to have you. We're happy for you to lend your expertise on such a busy day as the season starts. Enjoy your NBA season. If you're here checking us out, that means that you are an NBA fan. You are a Heat fan. Follow Barry's work. Follow Anthony's work at MiamiHerald.com. And we will follow all things Heat. We will keep track, and we will keep you on top of it throughout the season. For Barry Jackson, I am John Devine. Until next time, we will see you. Thanks for joining us.